Hello everyone, it's Rafael Gutierrez. Welcome to our channel. Today I'm going to talk about something that I came across as I was on different websites. Someone asked about a condition that they were having where they were getting dizzy and or lightheaded during exercise. Now, before you take any advice on something like that, you do need to get evaluated. And when you go see a doctor about lightheadedness, talk about frequency, when you get it, how you get it, any symptoms that make it better, anything that makes it worse. Also, if it's done with exercise, make sure you actually write how long you've been exercising when you do get lightheaded. For instance, if it's 5 minutes, that's going to be different than if it takes you an hour and a half, which I'll talk later. Now, once you actually get evaluated, it may be that the doctor tells you, well, everything's fine with you. Now, there's a lot of things that can cause this. High blood pressure is one. After you actually get checked, one of the things you may want to look at is are you breathing? A lot of times people train and they forget to breathe. The other thing is, are you overexerting yourself? Are you going far beyond where your body can actually go? That's actually a big thing. The other thing is, are you dehydrated? Have you been pretty much sweating too much and having pretty much a loss of blood pressure because of lack of water? Or are you low in sugar? Are your blood sugar levels dropping? Now, that actually can happen, and that's what I'm going to deal with mostly in this. So what I'm going to tell you is this: if you are getting lightheaded when you exercise, always remember to get evaluated. I would actually recommend, if you can, make a log on when you get dizzy, when you don't. Talk about what makes you feel better. Just because that way it actually can help you narrow it down. Now, a doctor will do a lot of tests to make sure you don't have diabetes, to make sure you don't have high blood pressure, to make sure that you don't have any endocrine disorders. But these are things that have to be done in a clinic. Let's assume you have gone to clinic and the doctor tells you, I can't find anything wrong with you. There are other things you actually want to look at, and one of them is just when things are happening. For instance, if you're going through hypoglycemia, which means you have low blood sugar levels, it may be because of the type of exercise and your diet. Now, I have actually seen people say, well, Olympic athletes can train 10 hours a day, and that's true, but they also have a dietitian, make sure they're eating properly before and after exercises. They're getting the right snacks to make sure that they're able to maintain this ability. It's not just hey, I'm going to eat a pepperoni pizza and then think I'm going to run a marathon. You really need to prepare your diet, making it healthy and best for what the activity that you're going to do. So with that, I'm going to actually talk about why some people would get dizzy from low blood sugar levels, even though they're otherwise healthy. And to do that, we actually have to talk about the 3 types of fuel sources that your body uses to make what it uses for energy, which is ATP. ATP is adenosine triphosphate. It can be broken down in adenosine diphosphate, ADP, and an inorganic phosphate, and that actually helps run your entire body. So your body really uses 3 main things for energy source. I'm not going to talk about alcohol. I'm going to deal with the 3 that we usually get. The number one, the one that most people have noticed about 60% of your diet should be made up of, is sugar. Now, that doesn't mean, hey, I have to get more sugar in my diet because my proteins or fats. What it means is, if you have an ideal diet, you have the ideal calories that you need to maintain, about 60% should be from sugar. If you think about it, that's talking about a 2,000 kilocalorie diet on average. You're talking about 1,200 should be sugar. And I know that there are variations, and someone's going to mention all these different things that, oh, well, I heard that you have to eat more protein. The truth is, when you look at blue zones and when you look at high-level athletes, they tend to follow this. The other type of energy source is amino acids. And amino acids, most people say, you should have about 10 to 20% of your diet amino acids. If someone has renal failure, a lot of times people have either they get in a car accident or exercise too much and it can cause renal failure. They sometimes remove the amount of amino acids that they do. There are some diets which people have been put on to protect their kidneys, which is a lot less, and that's actually more for special considerations. Don't really try to adjust that. Usually you want to go towards where most people are actually able to function properly. The last is fatty acids, triglycerides, fats. About 20% of your caloric intake, again, assuming you have the right number of calories, should be fat. If you don't have the right number of calories, don't try to do this. You actually have to make sure your calories are right, and then everything else, modify it to that. So, how your body uses this. First, when you eat complex carbohydrates, you break down the complex carbohydrates to simple sugars. It goes into your bloodstream, directly into your liver, and your liver will store as much sugar as it can. It does the same thing with amino acids. Fats go straight to your heart. And what the liver does with the sugars is it stores them, makes a molecule called glycogen, and releases the rest of them. Now, glycogen can also be made in your muscles when you have high levels of sugar. And sugar is actually the main energy source for a lot of organs. For instance, your brain doesn't do too well without sugar. Amino acids, they go to the liver. You can actually use it to make a lot of circulatory protein. And a lot of the amino acids will go into the body to be able to be used to make intercellular stuff. Fat, like I said, goes to the heart, can be used as energy, but it's also needed for hormones. Now, these three energy sources are all, if we're going to use them for energy, they're all going to eventually make ATP. Now, how much ATP do you make? Well, ATP is present in all your cells. It runs everything. But when you're exercising, when you're doing moderate to severe exercise, your ATP will be done in a matter of seconds. So then you need another way to replenish this ATP, which is creatine phosphate. It only lasts up to a minute. So once you go past a minute, this is exhausted and you need other ways to get energy. Well, about a minute and a half, pretty much for the first minute and a half, you also are using sugar, but you're breaking it apart without oxygen, aerobic respiration. This only lasts for a minute until the sugar can be broken down aerobically. And that can actually last up to 40 minutes when you're dealing with moderate to severe exercise. Now, I will tell you that there are people who will tell you, well, your body can store sugar and glycogen for 12 hours. And if you're at rest and not doing something, that's correct. But if you're actually exercising moderate to moderate severe, you'll go through this thing in a matter of 40 minutes. If you think about it, most sports, whether because they knew this or maybe because they noticed that they were getting peak performances at a certain time, most sports have 40-minute sections or 45 minutes. Now, once you actually get to using sugar, after the 40 minutes, you start using fatty acids. Like I said, you can actually use glycogen stores for about up to 1.5 hours, but you can actually start depleting them depending on how fast you're doing this exercise. The reason all that is important is this. If you're doing moderate to severe exercise and you're going for more than 1 hour, let's say you're doing 2 hours, by the end of the second hour, you may end up having a lightheadedness based on the low blood sugar levels. You're actually burning fat, you are doing a lot of exercise, and for your certain organs to function properly, you do need a little bit of sugar. That's actually why most of us who are doing an hour exercise, 2 hours, we don't need the special hydration solutions. But athletes that are going 2 hours, 3 hours, they are usually using some hydration solution with sugar. Again, this is only when you're actually going pretty much moderate severe exercise and using up all your glycogen stores, which will help you continue. You think about it, most of these are people who are doing marathon runs. So what I will say is this. There are a lot of different reasons why someone might get lightheaded after exercise. Make sure that you get evaluated by a physician before you decide what's wrong with you. If they can't find anything wrong with you, make sure you have a log of when you get dizzy, how you get dizzy, how long it takes you, how much exercise you're doing, and what relieves it. And then you can actually get a more accurate result. For a lot of people, if they're otherwise healthy, meaning they don't have any other illnesses, which you have to make sure you don't have any other illnesses, it may be, if you're getting lightheaded after 2 hours of exercise, it may be that you do need to implement a little bit of sugar in your system when you start feeling this. The other thing that I would suggest is go to a dietitian, a registered dietitian, and have them make a special diet for you so you actually can function at the optimal level. I hope you guys enjoy this, and if you want to help support the channel, please consider buying, and if you bought and review, if you can review, look on Amazon for Off the Rails, a modern Musha Shugyo, and Series of the Rarest Things. Hope you enjoyed this, and have a nice day.